Okay, and we are back live with Paisley Burger College Football podcast, P&B Betting here. Mr. Paisley, another week in the books. It was a crazy week, pretty historic. Oh, as we know, the big news, James Franklin out at Penn State as of today, another collapse. We'll get into that. And then as far as the betting recap, Paisley, I just want to start and say I don't think I know anything about college football right now.
It was one of those weeks. Yeah, it was a rough one for your case, but we all have those. We're going to bounce back, just like Penn State did after the Oregon loss. But another week, another Penn State headline here coming into the week. This is 3 weeks in a row now, so gotta talk about them. Hopefully, this will be the last time all year. We will get to them, but yeah, some huge news. And then there was a lot of games. A lot of people are focusing on the Penn State story, obviously, but there was some really big games and some really big. We found out a lot about these teams again this week because of the magnitude of these games. So I'm ready to recap them and dive into them. This is a very exciting time of the year.
We'll kick it off. I guess on Friday night, we were both wrong on this one. We both had North Texas. I really like North Texas, and they just got steamrolled. Not a spoiler because they won't be my loser of the week, but I was really close to putting North Texas on as my loser of the week just because I was so disgusted by that. Like a playoff game, you're at home, practically not a playoff game, but you know what I mean. If they win that, so started out the week with a loss there, and I pretty much just never got any wins. One of my favorite picks, Pittsburgh, they were the only team that came through for me. They won outright. I did have them on the money line, had them with the points, so I was like, there we go. I know what I'm doing. And then outside of that, I pretty much had a lot of red on my card. Totally whiffed on Oregon. We'll get to them. Totally whiffed on TCU. Absolutely got killed. I should have saw that coming. Really only had a couple other wins, and that was a couple unders I had, and then I had Iowa -3. Could have taken them -30, but didn't know that all of a sudden they were a powerhouse there in Iowa. But yeah, outside of those few, and really Pittsburgh's my highlight. Not a lot of green on my card.
Yeah, you should have just bet Pitt, and that was your only bet of the weekend. You could have just went all in on that because that was an excellent pick. Got it on the money line, underdog. I unfortunately came up short with Oregon State, so I will take full responsibility. Case you did your part with a juicy 10-point dog. Can't get any better than that. And then Oregon State also fired their coach, which is a little bit less in the news than the James Franklin news. So they are in disarray. But yeah, I started off the day really hot. I was really happy myself around 3:30. And then I just have to stop betting once the sun goes down because this is 2 or 3 weeks in a row now. The nightcap is just not friendly to me. But big shout out to the Kent State Golden Flashes. They were maybe going to be my winner of the week, but I switched to somebody else. Destroyed UMass. I was very close. I was going back and forth with you. I don't know what my second lock was going to be. And I decided to roll with the 1-5 Kent State. I think they clipped their win total now over 1.5. They destroyed UMass, so got to give a huge shout out. That was a nice win. I was really scared about that one, so it was really nice if you tailed that one on the lock. And most of them we'll get into on the recaps. But yeah, the nightcap, as you can look at our board on Twitter, just a lot of red late. But we'll get into some of the matchups and why they went south. But yeah, TCU too. I guess Kansas State's back. I guess they're good now. I don't know because they're just rolling through everybody now. But TCU is really falling off the map. I thought they were going to take that next step in the Big 12. So that one was very surprising. They got crushed.
Yeah, that was a stunner. A lot of red. Great pick on Kent State, by the way. I did it when I was checking the scores and stuff this morning. I totally missed that yesterday, caught it today. So big win for them. I know they dealt with a lot in the offseason, so huge shout out to them. Great pick there. So yeah, you ended up going 9-12-1 for the week. I don't even want to say it, 4-10, and the one push with Alabama, which we'll also get to them. Takes our overall on the year to 118, 128, and 8 pushes. So dipping a little bit below 50% now for the first time. And I think that's because we were both below 500 this week. Usually it's one or the other. This time we were both below. I was much worse winning percentage wise, but still at 49. Still got a lot of games. We're about at the halfway point now this week. So ton of games to go. We're probably going to have another 200 or so picks between us on the page here. So a lot of time still to rebound.
Yeah, we win and lose as a team. You're right. Usually one of us has a good week, so maybe we're due now for next week. Both winning above 500. So tune and find out.
Also, because we probably won't get to it, I'll say in the beginning, big shout out to Hawaii. I'm wearing the hat. They got the win. They were on my preliminary picks. If you listen to the podcast, Unfortunately, I made a slight change on my betting when I went and go ahead and place that bet. I ended up taking Utah State. Don't want to talk about it, but disappointing there. But if you were a listener and you took my picks on Wednesday or Thursday or whatever it was, huge win at home, defeating Utah State by like 3 scores or something like that. So big shout out to the Rainbow Warriors.
Yeah, they're rolling a little bit. We talked about the Mountain West being down. They could maybe be that second or third team. So the Mountain West wide open. Hawaii, maybe a little surprise team here at the end.
All right. Well, we'll get right into it, Paisley, before the recaps. Obviously, the big news again, 3 weeks in a row with Penn State as a headliner here. They finally pull the trigger. They fire James Franklin in a pretty stunning downfall. We were talking about it before the podcast, just how quickly things could change. I mean, we're just talking 16 days ago. 15 days ago, they were up 7 against Oregon in overtime. Chance to win, could have completely changed the season, the narrative. But as I was saying to you, that was such an all-in moment for them. The fan base needed that one. They were talking about it all off season, have to win that Oregon game to get over the hurdle. But just absolutely stunning collapse. You lose to Oregon, you lose to UCLA, which, by the way, all of a sudden now looks like they're a Big Ten contender.
They're good.
Not sure how that happened, but regardless, if they're good or not, Penn State comes back home, loses to Northwestern in just a disgusting game. One of the worst games I've probably ever watched. Couldn't move the ball. I mean, they lost Drew Aller for the year. Just the storyline, just an absolute catastrophic, really start to the year for Penn State. But they fire Franklin. He's gone. The boosters wanted it. The fan base certainly wanted it. They're going to pay him, I guess, the $50 million or whatever he's owed, unless there's another headline that's about some sort of deal that their athletic director Pat Kraft made with him. I don't know. That's probably all ongoing, but regardless, they're going to pay him a lot of money not to coach there, and they're going to have to point to somebody new. We'll see who they hire. Could be before the end of the year, more likely around the end of the year, unless it's somebody that's not coaching currently. But yeah, the official rebuild starts today for them, and we'll see. But biggest thing is just crazy how quick things can turn. You're going from preseason number 1, number 2 to up 7 2 weeks ago against Oregon to just 2 bad losses in a row, and he's no longer the head coach. Crazy.
Yeah, I think catastrophic is a good word. We were talking before. I just haven't seen anything like this in any sports, really. We're in like a 2 to 3 week span where the expectations are so high. Then you lose 2 games. Obviously, 2 games you just can't lose, and then back-to-back. And the fashion you lost. I know you were boots on the ground there in Penn State. I was watching the whole game on TV, and it just looked like a defeated team. It just looked like they were uninspired, just not really wanting to be out there and stuff in front of your home crowds. You can't have that. So he had the excuse with the travel, all the other stuff last week. There was absolutely no excuse this week to lay quite an egg like that. Northwestern, and shout out Northwestern. They really came to play. They really took advantage of it, and that was a huge win for their program. But obviously the story is more about Penn State and just the downfall. I mean, it really is shocking. I think like you said, it started with the Oregon game and then just not being able to rebound. Then you were hearing some things in the weeds with some recruits leaving after that UCLA loss. And now you really just put the final nail in the coffin here. Yeah, I agree. I think they had to fire him. It's crazy. Mid-firing in college football usually doesn't happen as much as like an NFL or other sports like that. So, it must have been really bad. Seemed like it was kind of brewing for a while. And, I think this was kind of built up just how fast they were moving here. It's usually just happened overnight. So, you talk about the buyout. They got to allocate a lot of money for that. Texas A&M is really the only school that has done that, but they are on another level with money compared to other teams in the country. So they were able to come back from that a little bit. So it's going to be interesting to see how Penn State, recovers from this. And with the buyout, can they allocate? Can they keep some recruits? The transfer portal is going to be a huge topic of discussion next year, whichever. And then obviously the head coach that they bring in. There's a ton of names being thrown out right now. It's kind of hard to speculate at the moment, like we were talking about, because we're kind of midway through the season. All these teams kind of has to finish out. It depends what they do at their current, if they're looking at current coaches. So it's going to be hard to get a grasp on unless they hire somebody like an Urban Meyer that's being talked about. That's definitely a very out there one. I don't even know if I'd want that if I was a Penn State fan. But there's a ton of names. It's a ton of pressure on the administration now to hire the right person here to come in because, like we've seen with some other programs, if you don't hire the right guy, you could just keep delaying the process another 3, 4, 5 years. So you really want to get somebody in there that could turn it around very quickly. Good news is you can do that with the transfer portal. It's going to be interesting to see with how the money situation, I said, there's a lot of factors at play. So they can't just go and spend like crazy maybe this offseason. They aren't one of the top NIL programs, and now we have to be allocating a lot to James Franklin and his paid vacations that you're going to be paying for him. So just a crazy turn of events here. Was not expecting this, like you said, from a number 1, number 2 preseason team. I just have not seen a collapse like this and not being able to bounce back. And like you said, prayers up for Drew Aller. Hopefully he's all right. But now you got the backup the rest of the year. Can they salvage a couple wins? If you lost these 2 games, I don't know how easy these rest of the 6, 7 games are going to be. So now you're talking about maybe missing a bowl game. So I know it's an attractive job. It always is with the big brand of Penn State, but just the way it's going this year and just the fallout, the toxicity within the administration, the fans obviously have a right to be mad at if I was a fan too. But it's crazy how much this has changed. So will it be an attractive job later in the year? You know, it looks attractive on the surface now, but those guys sign the checks, or will they want to leave their programs that they built up? Like you're talking about, Matt Rule's definitely a big name. So will he want to leave Nebraska depending on the state that they're in at the end of the year? So still a lot of question marks at play, but definitely a very important and interesting decision that Penn State has to make, and for the Penn State fans there.
Yeah, it's good points. I do think, regardless of how bad it looks right now, though, I do think it will remain like the most attractive job in the offseason as of right now. And as far as Matt Rule, yeah, if Penn State called Matt Rule, I think he jumps up and leaves Nebraska in a second, just based off of what I heard, and also Pat Kraft's relationship with Matt Rule, and he went to Penn State. I think that'd be a no-brainer. I don't even necessarily want Matt Rule, but I do think that it will remain an attractive job, at least for them. Some of the good news is, like you mentioned, with the transfer portal now, it's a little bit, you could rebuild quicker than years past. Obviously, before the transfer portal, it would be an absolute nightmare if you had the in season firing, just because you are setting your program back years. I mean, to recruit, you can't just go out and buy players. Thankfully, now you could do it a little bit quicker. I'm not saying you could do it, night and day, but it's at least a little bit more manageable as the sport continues to change. And then the last point I'll just make on it is if you're an outsider kind of looking in, you'd say, Franklin, won 10 games. You're right there. You were just in the college football, playoff semifinal last year. How could you pull the trigger, this early? It seems like an impulsive decision. It really not. If you look at it, though, this has been an ongoing crisis there for years. There's been a lot of pressure since 2017, 2018. He just kind of kept buying himself time, and it just reached a breaking point where it got so bad that, especially after the Oregon game, it was beyond repair. And it is disappointing how it happened, but I really am more positive now than I was like even a week or 2 ago, just because at least now you have something to look forward to. The coaching search. Yeah, you will lose recruits. You're going to lose players. Like, that's going to inevitable. It's all how they respond, who they bring in. Will that coach be able to bring in guys from his program or whatever, or, a lot will depend who the leader is. And, the recruits, I think they'll come, they'll go. They certainly aren't going to have, the star class I think they thought they would, but it's college football. Things change quick. Look at what Indiana did. Kirk Cignetti did in just a year in Indiana. Also, you brought the example, Texas A&M. They had the massive buyout, Jimbo Fisher. Here they are right now at 5 or 6-0, top 5 in the country with them. So they definitely have a lot of resources. Penn State does too. I'm not sure how they compare, but crazy times. It's shocking how quick it happened, but yeah, we could finally turn the page on the James Franklin era at Penn State.
Yeah, I'm going to miss it. And just 2 more final points I had here. I was surprised with all the not pushback, but just now the people supporting James Franklin. And I was like, they're like, how could they do this? How could they fire him this quickly?
Yeah.
Like you were saying, like I was surprised by the number of people saying so. I was like, I thought this was a unanimous decision that all, college football thought. So it's just I don't know if people are just trying to be different online, how social media works in general. And then secondly, I will say just a slight pushback on the transfer portal. Now that we have some data on it now, 2-3 years, I think Indiana is definitely a great example of how to build it back in 1 or 2 years here. Let's see how they do now next year, because they have a lot of seniors. Mendoza is a great quarterback, but he's going to go to the NFL next year. And I think a lot of these teams, like I think of USC when Lincoln Riley went to USC those first couple of years. He's been there now 4 or 5 years, and now they had a big win against Michigan we'll get into, and now they're starting to ascend a little bit. but it took them. They were heavily relying on the transfer portal, I think, and it just wasn't clicking for 3 years with that. So I feel like it's a dangerous thing. I think you want to just, pick and choose your players in the transfer portal, but if you're relying on your whole roster, I feel like it could be a dangerous game where it could be maybe a quick fix, but maybe not a long-term fix. And even in the short term, it feels like it's not working out. So that's just something I would just have a little pushback, is that you don't want to rely 100% on the transfer portal because of its, inequities, and it's just so temporary patchwork kind of, and it hasn't really been proven to work short term here. Unless you're Indiana and on what Signetti's doing. And he had great success from JMU and brought a lot of those players too. So that could be a different example. So if you're looking for long-term success, I still think recruiting and high school recruiting is the way to go.
Sure.
And then kind of dab a little bit in the transfer portal. But it is exciting to see a new face now. And I'm going to miss Franklin and his time there at Penn State as a Penn State non-fan.
Certainly not Miss Franklin. And yeah, you're right. You can't build your roster on the transfer portal. I mean, I'm speaking to some of the gaps, the holes that you have on your roster to bring in a couple of guys, to plug holes temporarily. Certainly, you can't look at North Carolina right now.
Right.
Buying 70 new guys. No, that's not what I was saying. But yeah, I think we're on the same page with that. We'll see how they respond next year. Will really be crucial. I don't know about a bowl game this year. It would be cool to see them get a couple wins, but I'm looking to 2026, throw this year out. But crazy. Good for Franklin. He earned that $50 million. Let's see. I wonder where he'll go on vacation first. We'll see.
And just lastly, if they make it at 6-6 to a bowl, it'd be hilarious to see them in like Western Kentucky in like the Federal Credit Union Bowl on like December 18th.
Yeah. Well, or I was hoping Texas would lose to Oklahoma and hoping they would end up at like 6-6 also, but it looks like we'll get into that. It looks like they rebounded a little bit. All right. Enough James Franklin. Final time. Never going to speak to him again on this podcast. No longer at Penn State. Huge win. Okay. Big Ten football. Some positive, Mr. Paisley. Ohio State, number 1 in the country, taking care of business at Illinois. They win the game 34-16. They really controlled most of this game. Julian Sand continues to look pretty good, very good. They are arguably one of the best teams in the country, if not number 1. They're either number 2. You can kind of flip them in Miami, maybe Indiana. Now we'll get to them, but it's really just those couple of teams that have been the clear-cut number 1. This was just too much of a task for Illinois. We kind of highlighted it last week. I think we were both on Ohio State. I was a little bit more on Illinois, just thinking maybe they could keep this thing close and learn from the mistakes against Indiana. And they did. It was a little bit lower scoring in the first half. I think it was like a 1-possession game at times, but come the second half, Ohio State was able to pull away a little bit. Never really felt close, like Illinois was in striking distance. And they handled them 34-16.
Yeah, this one was one that I finally got right here to start the day. So the picks have been hot in the noon slate and 3:30. But yeah, I just felt like Ohio State was just really a step above. So I didn't mind laying the 14 on the road. But yeah, they really showed it there. The defense, again, just is super impressive. Just looking at the box score here, Illinois did have a late score to make it look a little bit closer than it was, but it really was a 21 to 17 point lead the whole game for Ohio State. They were really controlling. That defense is good. I think they're better than last year on that side of the ball. Matt Patricia really is doing a great job there. They're just a little bit faster, longer, just have everything buttoned up. Secondary linebackers might be the best in the country, and the D-line is playing at a great level. They're just so hard to score on, so it's going to be tough week in and week out. And like we said, this offense is just going to keep getting better and better and better with the games that they play. And like you said, they're kind of taking that next step. The last 2 games, I think they were over 30 points both games. Julian Sainz looking really composed. The running backs that I had question marks about are looking to get a little bit better. They're definitely getting a little more push and looking more comfortable. I also didn't realize this until the call was going on, though. They have a running back named Bo Jackson, which is pretty sick. So that's pretty cool, that little flash from the past there. But yeah, I think they just showed again, this is another good test. Not a huge test for Ohio State, but I think they're really the clear-cut team. I would put Miami, I don't know if they're in that level of Ohio State. I think they might be by themselves now. I thought it was just them in Oregon, but I think Ohio State's in a class of itself right now. I think they're by themselves, and everyone's looking up to them at the moment.
Yeah. And the clear-cut front runner, not only like nationally, like you said, but their schedule, like Big Ten wise, they're going to win out for sure. I mean, of course, I don't want to just say that. They have to go to Michigan, of course, at the end of the season.
Yeah,
they can't beat them this year. I don't know if they will. I don't even know if it matters anymore. If they could just get in a playoff anyway, but they certainly want to win that game. It's going to be a big game for Michigan, especially now that they got their second loss here to USC. So now they're kind of just trying to play spoiler, I think. But yeah, Ohio State looks like they're a class of their own. Illinois, they made it like 20-10, I think, in the third quarter was about the tightest it got, and then they just pulled away again. Yeah, Ohio State looks for real. I think, clear cut number one team. All right, moving on. SEC, Alabama at Missouri. Alabama gets the win 27-24. This was a pretty good game. Alabama started out pretty hot. They were up, I think it was like 10-0 or 17-3, and then Missouri came back, tied it up. Really back and forth game. I was impressed with Missouri. I mean, it never felt like they were going to win that game, for me at least, but Alabama just did enough. They looked a little bit better. Bo Prabula turned it over a couple of times too. I think he had a pick, 2 picks and a fumble. The one wasn't really his fault, and I think the one was on that last drive, but just not enough for Missouri. It was a great atmosphere. They were right there. I think Alabama, they're clearly now the front runner in the SEC, just based off how they've been playing the last few weeks ever since that Florida State game. But Missouri battled. They were in this game. It was tied late. They had chances, but Alabama just does enough to outlast them and be able to win after a late rally there by Missouri in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, I really walked away from this one super impressed with Alabama. That's why I was on Missouri. I just didn't like the spot. Third big game, back-to-back weeks, no rest in between. And they came out sharp right from the start. Missouri got that quick touchdown to go up 7-0. And then Alabama really controlled from there, really took the lead, took the reins on the game. And then Missouri had a late comeback. Love this Missouri team still overall, but I don't see them as like a national title, not national title, but just national picture playoff. I just don't think they're there yet after watching this game. They just really do not have anything on the outside with the receivers. Bo Prabula is a great runner, good intermediate, short thrower, but just doesn't really, to take those down threat, deep threat fields, shots like he should. I just don't trust him in the big setting and stuff like that. Not similar to Jackson Arnold. We'll get to that later. He is a freaking mess. I'm never betting on him again. But yeah, just a really good running quarterback, and a good run game, but they just don't have that if they fall behind. So they kind of need to win one way. So they really just fell behind the sticks here and couldn't really stretch the field late in the game. But I will say something that is consistent here with some of these top teams that I'm seeing now watching all these games, some of the third down and fourth down calls, like big time plays, at the 50-yard line, deep in territory. Alabama's got it. Their play calling is so good. They just have the right play call. They're so creative. And that's what really put them over the edge. Where I feel like Missouri, you look at that fake punt. That was just a bad call. I wanted them to go for it, but not on a fake punt. Just line up your guys, run a play, and go for it. 4th and 4, a little bit in your territory. They try and get cute with it, try and get the fake punts. So some of these like little coaching decisions, plays, play calling. And we'll get to it in the Georgia game too, but I thought they were nails too in that game. I think they converted like 8 or 9 third downs in the fourth quarter. So I'm looking for that, for some of the coaching to really take it to a next level. I just feel like Alabama, this is the 3rd week in a row I've been watching them, and they just make these key plays when you need them the most, almost like a Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes. Like they're just so comfortable when things are tight, the crowd's going crazy, and some of the throws Ty Simpson was making was just unbelievable. He's really playing at a high level. So that's something that I'm just seeing from some of these top-tier teams are on these critical downs. The play calling's great. They're just really nailing it, and I feel like they're just a step ahead of some of these coaches on the middle tier. They're looking to break through like a Drinkowich and in Missouri. They just still can't win the big one. So really thought that we had a great opportunity here in this one, and it was very unfortunate. I did have 3.5. That's what we talk about. Numbers are so important case all the time, and this was a great example of a game lands 3. If you had 3, it was a push like I had for my lock. But in real life, if you got the 3.5, you do get the win. So just another shout out there to getting the best number every single time.
Yeah. Half a points matter, especially when it's 2.5 versus 3 or 3 versus 3.5. Yeah, I agree with most of what you said. Missouri also has a very difficult game next week. They got to go rebound at Auburn, so we'll see how they respond. I do think they're still, like we said, they're solid. They're a good team. I just don't think they're at the Alabama level. That's kind of why I was just leaning Alabama. Wasn't in love with the pick, but I leaned it. Just if I have to pick a team to rely on out of the SEC, like how many teams could I really rely on? And I was kind of going Alabama before this game. Now I'm like almost all in back on them. I just think they're a safe pick. They're playing great defense. Their offense looks good. They're moving the ball. There's not a lot of flaws with this team right now. I don't know what changed after week 1 because Florida State, they do not look very good at all right now. So Alabama just did a great job responding. I think the SEC is for sure theirs for the taking right now, especially Oklahoma then losing this week, and Texas hasn't been that great. And then, Georgia too, they get the win over Georgia. So definitely in the driver's seat, the SEC. Missouri still has a lot to play for. They still have a lot of good games. Like, their season's still in front of them. I don't think they're going to win out, if like we talked about, but even a 10-2 Missouri could be in the playoff discussion at the end of the season with how difficult their schedule is. Auburn, Vanderbilt, A&M, Oklahoma. So still a lot of opportunity to get wins to, keep themselves in playoff discussion, but they really can't slip up much more. And yeah, this one would have been really nice to have at home if you're Missouri.
Yeah, it's a great point on defense, too. There was some that was struggling, definitely in the Florida State game. But you're right. They're playing a lot better on defense. They're kind of rounded into a complete team. And you want to talk about bouncing back and winning a lot of big games, got to give Kalen DeBoer. Everyone was bagging on him when he lost those games.
Yeah.
He deserves a lot of credit, too. He's doing a great job. And I completely agree with you. I think they are definitely number one in the SEC right now, and everyone's kind of chasing them. But they have another tough game with Tennessee coming in again in Alabama. So the SEC, man, just doesn't stop. It's crazy.
Yeah, I may have sold all my Kalen DeBoer. I may have been talking a lot of shit on him after that Florida State game. So do not roll the tape back on that one. But yeah, Alabama, great job since that game. Complete dominance in the SEC. They're the driver's seat. All right, moving on. This was a absolute stunner, Mr. Paisley, I think for both of us. But Indiana, Kurt Cignetti going into Eugene and dominating this game, getting the win. It was very close on the scoreboard, but like Indiana was in control on a lot of points in this game. They threw a pick six and they still, won the game like this. Like, this was a game that Indiana just looked better, which I was stunned. I did not see it happening. I thought, Oregon was going to go and roll. I just thought at home, I thought there was a talent gap. I still kind of remember the Indiana from last year, that Indiana-Ohio State game, the Indiana-Notre Dame game, of course. But this feels a little bit different now, unless we're totally missing something, which wouldn't shock me. Like I said at the beginning, college football, or this podcast, I know nothing about college football right now. But absolute stunning result, at least for me. Indiana 30, Oregon 20, and all of a sudden the Hoosiers are it's their season right now. It's going to be them and Ohio State, I think, in the Big Ten. Should be a playoff lock unless something really falls off the rails.
Yeah, this was definitely the biggest shock of the day. I was so surprised. Got to give a ton of credit. Where credit's due to Indiana, like you said, we were fading them. Really was believing in Oregon here, and to go into their place, not a lot of people win there, and they absolutely dominated. Like you said, they won by 10, could have been 17, 14. Just looking at some of the stats here, Oregon only had 14 first downs the whole game. Really impressive with the Indiana defense. This team is different. They're definitely different than last year. They have their footing. They have their identity. They really held Oregon to 81 yards rushing, 2.7 yards per rush. That was something that Oregon is stubborn. They like to run the ball, and deservedly so. They have a good running game, and that's really what starts their whole offense. And they just couldn't get that going at home with a good offensive line that they trust. That was just a very shocking turn of events there. So got to give Indiana's D-line a lot of credit there. And like you said, Mendoza, man, he's good. He's good. I kind of doubted him a little bit in the beginning of the season. The Iowa game was definitely shaky, but this game, they really came to play. So we talk about look-ahead spots, Case. I think this was really a point. We'll get to the Texas game, how they lost to Florida, bounce back. Indiana did not look good, where they looking ahead to Oregon here. So I think that really could be a factor here as we go forward in the season. But Indiana, a ton of credit. It's crazy now. They're going to be in the top five, and deservedly so. I really thought Oregon was that, second team in that class with Ohio State, but I think it just shows more on Penn State and how, not great they were. So, Oregon's going to prove. I still think they're really good. I still think Oregon, they're one of those teams that I just feel like, they had a bad game. I think they still have a really good team. I like Dan Lanning. I like what they're doing up there. So I'm not sensing anything, too drastically. I was just more impressed with Indiana in this game. So wouldn't be shocked if Oregon, hangs in that top 5, top 7. And I still think they can win a national championship. So I'm not writing them off completely here, but just we got another player here in the actual contenders here, and Indiana definitely deserves it. So a lot of credit here in year 2, just a huge bump for the program and everything. But that defense really controlled the game there. They really stunned Illinois, and they really stunned Oregon here on the road. So got to give a lot of credit to Cignetti and those boys there.
Yeah, and find the loss on Indiana's schedule. I mean, UCLA might be their most difficult game left at this point for how good UCLA look. Like, they have Michigan State, just got killed by UCLA. Then they play UCLA. Then if you got to travel to the East Coast at Maryland, at Penn State, but Maryland looks terrible. Penn State looks terrible. Wisconsin, they're a joke. And then you finish the season at Purdue. Like, this is Indiana. They could certainly be 12-0. If I was, I would, as of right now, I absolutely think they'll run the table and might have a 12-0 teams facing off in the Big Ten championship. So that will be insane if it happens. But good for them. Good for Indiana.
No, it's a great point. Like you said, some of these games we thought were going to be tough. That Penn State game was so, looking so crazy and tough in the beginning of the season. Now it's not looking as bad. So you're right. I have no reason to think they can run the table and be undefeated, which is crazy to think.
All right, going to the Red River Rivalry here. Basically, we were both on this one. I don't think I put it on my card. I don't know why, but Texas 23 defeating Oklahoma 23-6. Controlled this game. Texas had a great game plan. I didn't watch this entire game, but I rewatched the highlights today and some of the statistics, and it just looked like they had a great game plan in this one. And then, of course, the storyline, John Mateer ended up going and playing. He just did not look himself, clearly looked a little banged up, had 3 interceptions, and was never really in this game. Huge win for Texas. I think they needed this one. It was kind of why I was on them a week ago. I just felt like this was their moment. Steve Sarkisian, you can't lose this game. They come through. They can breathe out. They live another week here in the SEC. Big shout out to Texas. Also, not sure Oklahoma is as great, maybe as we thought they were here coming into today. So I think a few things going on here. But nonetheless, it's a rivalry game. Arch Manning played for decent from what I've seen, and they get the win 23-6 in a must-win situation over Oklahoma.
Yeah, this was a good call on us. Got to pat ourselves in the back here. Had Texas and the under played into it the entire game. Something I just want to start. I just don't get some of these coaches where they're playing the injured quarterback or rushing them back off an injury when you have a fully healthy backup. Now, I know the backup is not as nearly talented as John Mateer, but you got to question, do you want a 50% John Mateer or 100% backup? And this game clearly showed. I watched this whole game as well, and it was just he never felt comfortable. He was second-guessing stuff. His throws were all over the place, missing by 10 yards, and you could just tell his hand was not right. So it was great they rushed him back. That doctor got a lot of praise and everything, but it's what was it for? It just didn't make any sense. You have a huge schedule coming up. Not to say you wanted to throw this game, but I think you would have had a better shot with a fully healthy backup and have him maybe play the backup role in case something goes wrong and you want to throw him in there. But I just feel like they rushed him back way too much. I don't get that from teams when they do that. Just trust the backup a little bit, and this really showed here. But this is all Texas. They really came to par. They really looked like themselves here. Nice bounce back spot again for another team here. So got to give them a lot of credit. Arch looked a lot better. He wasn't lighting up the world, but he doesn't have to because he has a really good defense, and the defense really responded. They played a lot better than how they looked in the swamp at Florida. So Arch was just doing his thing. He was kind of just, picking his spots, dumping it down, just kind of being a game manager, which is what he has to be this year for this team to be, at the level they want to be. So they just needed enough points. They're taking advantage of some good field position. The special teams were really good, had a couple field goals, had a long kickoff. I think they might have had a punt return this game as well. So just really was all clicking for Texas here. I was expecting a nice little bounce back spot for them. But yeah, the defense looked better. Arch looked a lot more comfortable and better, so maybe he'll get better as time goes on. Still not buying maybe fully. Still tough with the 2 losses. Maybe they have to run the table, but so I don't know if I'm at that level yet, but this was a huge win. I think they needed this. You could just tell the looks on Sark and Arch Manning's face at the end of this game. They were just very relieved. So it was a nice bounce back spot for them, and I was happy for that to be on the right side of that. So a lot of credit to Texas there. They definitely deserved to win this game, and it was a nice bounce back for them.
Yeah, they did a good job offensively putting Manning into those good situations. Like you said, he didn't light it up, but he didn't need to. You framed it perfectly. A lot of dump offs, just give him a lot of quick releases. It was just a very smooth game. I'm looking at, only 166 yards passing, so not a great, passing day by any means, but they were able to move the ball. They ran well. They did enough to win. And then, on your OU point, I don't know why you force Mateer here. If you're unless they I just don't get it either, especially if you're hurt and you miss a game, you could really hurt your Heisman odds. I get all that, but it's if that, I hope that had nothing to do with it because push him back in this situation. Now it really tanked after, he didn't play horrible, but 3 picks, clearly banged up. It just didn't look good. And then to lose like that, they must have felt like they really needed him to win this game. But like you said, they have a formidable backup. I just don't quite get it. But yeah, Texas does what they need. They really control this game from start to finish, win it 23-6.
Yeah, last point I just want to make on Arch, which is somewhere when quarterbacks are struggling, let them run a little bit. And I just didn't see his legs really. They weren't really having a lot of design runs. And they talk about how athletic of a Manning he is, even though his uncles aren't that athletic. And I think they ran him 4 times here, but he definitely was moving a lot more outside the pocket, throwing on the run. I think that's what they have to incorporate a little more. You don't want to get him hurt. You don't want to run your quarterback 20 times, which is something that the BYU quarterback actually does watching that game late at night. I think he ran the ball 24 times. But just a funny point there. But yeah, I think you got to open it up a little bit, let him run, let him get a little comfortable, let him get hit running when he knows the hit's coming. He just looked a lot more comfortable. So that could be something that I think Texas looked to going forward. Let Arch run a little bit more, get a little more comfortable.
Basically, I wish you didn't bring up that BYU game because absolutely got screwed on Arizona. I had Arizona with the points there going to overtime. Unbelievable. Yep. They were ahead in most of this game late in the fourth quarter. Disappointing. Okay. Moving on, I guess we'll stay in the SEC. Florida going to College Station, number 5, Texas A&M. A&M, another hurdle. They completed. They get the win over Florida. Florida gets the win over Texas a week ago. Huge win for A&M to stay unbeaten. Hearing a lot of rumors that they feel a little bit different this year. They feel like they are a serious SEC contender, national contender. I said it last week, so this is your first time listening. I'm getting a little annoyed with the A&M hype, but this quieted down a little bit. They did look good. They handled Florida. They did what they needed to do. Florida played great early. This was a game till the third quarter. Actually, even early fourth quarter, I made notes. I think it was 14-14. It was 21-14 late, and then A&M kind of pulled away. But Florida offensively did pretty well in the first half. Just not enough. Second half, A&M was able to pull away. They do enough offensively. They get the win, and they stay unbeaten. And, Florida, I think they are a team that's playing a little bit better than their record indicates just because of how difficult their schedule is. So don't want to take anything away from the Aggies. Definitely a big win, and they also needed this one for themselves. So good win, A&M. They remain unbeaten, and another tough one for the Gators.
Yeah, I agree with all your points you said. Spot on. I think we were both on Florida plus 7.5, and it was looking good all game. They were really within that number, right on the 7 most of the game. That's why you take the hook. And then just looking here, they did score with 4 minutes left and then a field goal with a minute left to push it to 17. I think that was after a pick or a turnover too in their own 15. So like you said, we like to just, be truthful. We like to say all the stuff, even though we were on the wrong side. But final score was a little misleading there at the end. Definitely was a little closer. But got to give Texas A&M, like I said, a lot of credit. I think that, again, the defense is starting to come around, and that's when the offense is clicking, looking really good. You want that other side of the ball to, take shape, and they definitely held Florida in check for the second, third, and fourth quarter. Florida definitely got out to a hot start, like you said, and looked really good. So this was a fun matchup back and forth. But Texas A&M did deserve to win. They really did outplay them the entire game by 17. That's what we were talking about. But got to give DJ Lagwitz a lot more comfortable. Still has a couple issues with some turnovers, just being a little lax, a little loose with the ball. But he really did play good for most of this game. But when you're trying to win a big, top 5 game on the road, you got to play really clean and play, almost close to 100%. But that was just something I took away was the Texas A&M defense with Elko. He's a defensive guy, really respected mind in the sport. They're definitely starting to play a little bit better, which is something you want to see if you're a Texas A&M fan. But like you said, Case, this SEC schedule is not getting any easier, so it's going to be battle after battle after battle. But Texas A&M, kind of like Miami, I kind of group them in the same breath where they have a lot of tests, and they're passing a lot of tests early on. You really can't complain with what you're seeing. You can maybe nitpick a little bit, but they really are passing a lot of tests early on. Like you said, Florida's still looking really good, definitely better than what their record indicates, but it's just going to be so hard to do something at a high level with that schedule, with your team still trying to find itself and with the bad start they had. So tough for Florida fans, but Texas A&M, I think they really got something cooking there, and they got a really – I'd put them number 2 right behind Alabama in the SEC for sure.
Do you think, Paisley, Billy Napier will survive at Florida? Is he gone at the end of the year? I'm curious now with the Penn State making a move on Franklin, all these other coaching changes, Arkansas a week ago, Oregon State, the pressure's there for him. When does Florida, it's one of those weird spots where you kind of just do enough to keep yourself employed. I don't know where Florida goes from here. They have the talent. They got to put it together at some point. Are you going to give them another year, or is this going to happen? It seems like it's at least going to happen just after the season. It won't be midseason, but I feel like they're just wasting time. And a program like Florida, growing up in the Tim Tebow era, you think of them as a dominant, team. They should be, top 10 every year. And here they are another year that they're not even, top 25 worthy. Just another disappointing season for the Gators.
That's a great question. Yeah, it really, I think it's picture perfect to what James Franklin was. It's the same situation where he's just doing enough to get by. I think he'll get a couple more years, get the runway a little bit, because like you're saying, he's not doing enough to implode maybe, and the schedule's been so tough. So I think it's going to be game by game. I think if they, keep falling, if they maybe miss the bowl game, if they go 5-7, then I think you could see some firings. But if he gets them to 6-7 wins, makes a bowl, I think they're going to be like, all right, let's keep him around one more year. But also with the James Franklin, I don't know if they could get to that national championship level and really elevate the program. So it's tough because, when you're looking at programs around the country, what do you want to be? Do you want to be a top 5, top 10 program? Or are you okay with just being in the mix? I feel like Baylor, Napier, James Franklin would be perfect at those schools where you want to be in the mix. You can maybe, spoil some seasons, but maybe not that top end. So I feel like if the Florida wants to get to that next level, they got to bring in somebody else. But there's not a ton of names out there like we were discussing earlier in the pod. So it's going to be interesting. But I think, honestly, if they keep playing like this, I think they're going to scrape by a couple more wins. I think he'll get another year if I had to pick right now.
Florida fans may remain in purgatory for a little while longer, but room for them. Want them to be good. It's fun for the sport, certainly when the swamp is rocking and they're top 10 or top 15 nationally ranked. So, but big story, A&M, like you said, driver's seat in the SEC with Alabama. It's really their season to lose at this point. They have 2 tough ones on the road later, at Missouri, at LSU. Even if you lose one of those, go 11-1. Might even get in at 10-2 if they lose to like Missouri and then at Texas. So really, A&M just needs to handle business the rest of the way. They should be a pretty safe playoff team unless they, really drop the ball here. But big win, another hurdle passed for them. All right, moving on. We'll stay in the SEC, final SEC game. We'll break down, then we'll get through 2 quicker ones right after this. But Georgia getting the win on the road at Auburn and Jordan-Hare Stadium. The Bulldogs 20 over Auburn Tigers 10. Auburn controlled the entire first half of this game, up 10-0. Had a chance to go up 17-0. A controversial fumble there right at the goal line. Georgia goes down, kicks a field goal, makes it 10-3. Just completely changed the game away in this one. And then Georgia does enough late in the second half. Auburn couldn't do anything in the second half offensively. And they get the win. But this was a great college football game from a fan perspective. If you're maybe an Auburn fan, not so much. Got to be very frustrating the way this thing played out after halftime, and that fumble was just crazy. But really, Auburn, it felt like they were finally going to get through in the first half, but then just couldn't do anything come second half. And Georgia gets the win here on the road, and a big win. I know Auburn's not the same elite Auburn they have been, but every game is tough in the SEC, especially in that atmosphere. And Georgia did enough, gets the win 20-10.
Yeah, this is the prime example of you got to put them away when you can in the first half. You got to put the nail in. You got to put the foot on the throat. Like they were just, you knew it going into halftime. It was just, you could feel it in the stadium. You could feel it watching on TV. I was actually checking the sheet because I did pick Auburn this game. I did like them, but I did not put on the sheet, but it would have been another late night loser. So it was good. We got that one off, but this was so disappointing. If you had Auburn plus 3.5, 4, whatever you got the number at, to go in, they could have went up 17-0, really controlled the game. Like you said, I never saw a team control the first half more than Auburn was. You felt like they should have been up 3, maybe 4 scores. They were just really dominating the whole game in the first half there. And then Georgia gets that field goal. It's 10-3 or 10-7 at halftime. And you just felt like, yep, here it goes. Like the momentum's just gone. And Auburn did not do a thing in the second half. I was just so upset with how they were running their plays. I don't know if it's Arnold. I don't know if it's the offensive line. They have good receivers. They just weren't really trying to run the game or run the ball. Georgia might be the best team at halftime adjustments. This is something that somebody brought up in a podcast I was listening to after it was like week 2 or 3. And they just turn it on. It was a Tennessee game. They just really are a whole different team in the second half. So if you're a live bettor, you like live betting, Georgia's definitely a team to look at halftime because they look so poor in the first half and they look like a completely different team in the second half, back-to-back games here. So this is definitely that's a trend, but it's a tricky trend because you don't want to be down in these games like they had to fight back. Now they won 2, like they won Tennessee in this game, but then they lost the Alabama game when they played a pretty bad first half. So it's a dangerous game. I came away actually from this Georgia team and just not impressed. Like I really liked them early on. ever since that Alabama game now 2 weeks ago, I'm just not on them. I think the quarterback's good. Their offense could do enough. And again, like I said, this defense kind of just getting bailed out by halftime adjustments. I think they have some dudes that are playing really good on that side of the ball, but just something about them, Case. I don't know. I think they should have 3 losses right now. If you look at that Tennessee game, they got severely outplayed. They're a missed field goal away there. They could have easily been down 17-0. Now on that call, I was trying to watch it. I thought it was a fumble. But the commentators were already talking about it. It was a touchdown. Both of them agreed with it. They brought the referee analyst in. He said it was a touchdown, so it was very controversial. Would have swung the complete complexion of the game there. So it was a huge call, but I just didn't see it. I thought it was close, but everybody on the broadcast there really thought it was a touchdown. But I keep betting this Auburn team. They covered, or they're close to covering in the Oklahoma game. They covered last week, keeping it close against Texas A&M. Like, they're a good team, but their record is just not showing it. But they really do have bad quarterback play. He just cannot see the field. He's tucking and running it, just putting his head down and just getting 1 or 2 yards. So it's just a very frustrating offense to watch. But we called it before the game. This defense is legit. Auburn does have a legit defense, maybe top 5, top 10 in the country. So just something to keep in mind, but just absolutely frustrating. I thought the fans are going to start throwing stuff on the field like that Texas game last year, Texas-Georgia, because it was getting that bad with the refs. And we'll get to that later in the loser of the week. But these refs are really trying to be like the NFL refs and have a say with every play. And it's just getting very annoying. Let that stay in the NFL. Don't bring it down to the college ranks here. But huge missed opportunity for Auburn. Really thought they deserved to win this one in Georgia. Skates by again, but I think it's going to catch up to them in the long run.
Did they call that a touchdown, or did they call it a fumble on the field? Do you remember?
I think they called it a fumble. Like, they kind of let it go. It came out. They let it go. Didn't signal a touchdown. Then they reviewed it, and then that's
that makes a little bit more sense. It was so close for me. I would have kept whatever the call was. So if it was a fumble, fumble. If they got it in, then, or they called a touchdown, then I would have been a little surprised. But yeah, Georgia, I agree. They have not been looking great, and they have a game against Ole Miss next week. You're probably going to go crazy because I know both of them have been overrated, I think, a little bit this year, especially Ole Miss. I don't think many people really believe Ole Miss is, the 4th best team in the country right now. So that'll be a huge game, and the winner of that may be prematurely also crowned in the SEC. But will be at least a good one. Doesn't get easy for Georgia. I definitely think they'll slip up again. Don't forget Georgia Tech either, kind of going under the radar in the ACC. They have to play them last game of the season in that rivalry game. So remember, Georgia Tech almost upset them last year in the 6 overtime game or whatever. So that might be a really good one at the end of the year. But anyway, totally agree on your points with Georgia and Auburn. Just another one. Couldn't go their way. Jackson Arnold just did not play well. I think he had 130 yards only passing. Not a recipe to win. All right, moving on. I know we're going long here. Big thanks to James Franklin for that. But Michigan at USC, going to the Big Ten. We don't have to spend a ton of time on this one, but USC just looked dominant, 489 yards in the game. Michigan just didn't really have an answer for them. That's with 2 turnovers by Southern Cal. They were 50% still on 3rd down. They had controlled time of possession. They're back in the AP top 25. USC finally, like you hinted at earlier, Lincoln Riley starting to get it going a little bit there. Gets the win over Michigan. Huge hurdle at home. They looked good doing it. And they move on, and they possibly could position themselves as a fringe playoff team come the end of the year if they keep winning. So USC 31 over Michigan 13.
Yeah, I'm done with Michigan. I'm done with them. I hate Jerome Moore. Their offense is broken. You bring in the 5-star kid, and they're just not letting it rip. They're trying to still run the ball for 2 yards. Like, I'm so done with Michigan and Dave Portnoy and all these. They just love Michigan. They think they're the best thing ever. They're not. I'm done with them. I bet their overs last couple of weeks, and their offense sucks. So I don't know if that's on me too. Just a little rant there. But defense played okay. They kept them somewhat within this game. But this offense, like, you have a Ferrari, and they're just not using it. Moore is an absolute joke. He should be fired. You want to talk about coaches being fired? They'll find a way to probably beat Ohio State because you could run the ball a million times, and maybe they'll beat them there. But it's a joke what they're doing. It's an absolute joke, and their fans suck. So hate them. USC, on the other hand, a lot of momentum. Like I said, they're playing really good. Kind of had a rough start where the offense was really clicking, but the defense wasn't. They had that tough loss against Illinois, but we broke it down after. They really played well in that game. It was just a couple bad bounces late with the, lucky, unlucky bounces and a late field goal. So everyone kind of wrote them off after that, but I did not think they should be written off completely. Now, They have a huge one next week against Notre Dame, which is actually going to be a huge game for both teams. Playoff picture now with USC coming into the mix. So just when you think maybe USC is on the rise, if they lose Notre Dame, could maybe tank their season, and then it'd be a really tough uphill sledding. But like you said, they played really sharp. I really like that quarterback. He's so good. He's a very good passer, distributor. Their RPO game is, I think, the best in the country. They could run the ball really well. He just makes good decisions. So I think Lincoln Riley definitely has the guy he wants behind running his plays because they're running at a very high level. So I'm not sold completely on USC defense. This will be a great test against Notre Dame next week to see if they could really put it all together. But I still think this was more just Michigan's ineptitude and just loading the box and stopping the run, and Michigan being one-dimensional. So that's my only thing with USC being a true contender going forward, because I do like this team. They are very good, and I really like the quarterback. But I still think this defense has some holes. So let's see it one more week. But a huge, huge win. Really put the brakes on them and really dominated this whole game. So big win for USC.
I assume, Paisley, you'll be taking the over next week in USC at Notre Dame.
I am. Yep, I'm looking at it. Even though Notre Dame overs have not been hitting recently because their defense is playing better. So we will most likely, that'll just be an auto play, hopefully, for next week.
Love the passion against Michigan, though. I as well agree and endorse the hatred for Michigan. So we could rename this the Anti-Michigan Podcast if we want to. They have been a joke. Underwhelming for sure. This whole Sharon Moore thing, it's not like it's got to be the only thing that's getting through if you're a Michigan fan is because you won the national championship a couple of years ago. Like, you're still riding that. If they didn't win in 2023, like, what a disaster this whole thing is. Like, Sharon Moore, we all know he's not going to be their head coach long. Like, we know the inevitable is happening. He's not going to become this successful, great next Michigan head coach. I mean, it's just not going to happen. He's not made for it. I don't think he's had quite the experience to take over this. I don't know what the delay is. I think they are just waiting for like an absolute collapse, and it could happen this year. I mean, by the end of the year, maybe they break, maybe they give him one more year and then reevaluate, but it just feels to me like it's inevitable also. Disappointing for them with Underwood, a 5-star kid coming in, not letting them, air it out, not letting them, just break free. I was very stunned by this game. I thought Michigan was going to come out with a little more fight. Their defense just, I don't know what happened to that. They did not play well at all, and really just not, living up to their expectations. So big win for USC, also kind of pumping the brakes. Don't want to completely go high on them. We'll see how they do next week against Notre Dame. And their schedule also not easy, especially now looking at it, at Notre Dame, at Nebraska, who's ranked, Northwestern, who just got James Franklin fired, then Iowa, who just won 37-0 at Oregon, and then UCLA, who, like we said, all of a sudden looks good. So not easy all of a sudden. What looks like it could have been easy a week or two ago, but nonetheless impressive for USC. But big game. I'm sure we'll break that down on Wednesday night for the Irish and USC. But moving on, USC gets the win, big win, and Michigan continues to disappoint.
Yeah, if Michigan can't run the ball for 200 yards, they're not winning. And like, I was looking back from that Nebraska game, like, everyone crowned them after that. They didn't even look that good in that game. I think we broke that down after too, and everyone's just like, oh, they're back, amazing. And I was on the scene before the season. I'm just done with them. I was just so disgusted. And I actually picked USC in this game. I actually took them, but I'm just so done with Michigan.
Yeah. That's funny. All right, moving on. Last game here, Big 12, Arizona State at Utah. The Utah Utes just totally dominating this game. Looking here, not a lot of passing going on here in this game at all, but Utah dominates the yardage, 415 total yards. They get the win over Arizona State. It was never even close. We talked about it. Sam Leavitt did not play. Arizona State had a lot of guys that were banged up. The line kept shifting all week. It went from like +4 to +6 to +8.5. I ended up putting it up. Such an idiot. I don't know why I fell for it. They just giving you so many points. I'm like, no. I was like, Arizona State could have some fight here. I like their coach. It's like Utah's not that great. Totally wrong here. Utah controlled from start to finish. I should have taken that 8.5-point spread as a possible alarm that it could get out of hand. And we don't have to go crazy analyzing this game. And we know Arizona State apparently just was like all banged up. I don't know what that was from. Like, I didn't realize this 10 days ago. So big win for Utah, but I once again go back to I know nothing here about college football this year because Utah just dominates this one start to finish, 42-10.
Yeah, this will be quick. But yeah, I remember we were texting during the week, and I'm like, what is going on with Arizona State? They had like 13 guys, 15 guys out, and it was just all undisclosed. Well, now we know that was the reason. That's why the line moved 5-6
Yeah.
points. I actually was on them plus 9.5. It got up to. It didn't touch 10. Got 9.5. And then once I found out Levitt was out, I just cashed out, which I normally don't do. It was the only one I cashed out, and I was very thankful, unlike you. But the Jeff Sims experiment. Do you remember Jeff Sims' case? He's been in college for 9 years, I think now. I didn't even know he was still going. He was in that famous Nebraska team that had like 20 turnovers against Colorado in that first year.
Okay.
So that was him. He was 18 for 38 passing the ball for 124 yards, 3.3 average, no touchdowns, no picks, but it was embarrassing. But yeah, Utah, nice win for them. But yeah, I still got to see with them. Huge game against BYU at BYU this week. If they can win that one and look good, then maybe they could get their season back on track after that Texas Tech loss. But yeah, like you said, I'm still not sold on Utah because they can't throw the ball either, which is an issue in 2025 if you're trying to win football games.
Totally agree. That's funny. Jeff Sims. Yeah, I totally forgot about him. I didn't even realize he was the quarterback until you just said that. Yeah, that's crazy. And then also, yeah, agree on Utah. I don't even know what this game means because we don't really know the caliber of talent Arizona State even had along, their sidelines. The season's still in front of them for Utah. I mean, you're still sitting at 5-1, so they can still compete here in the Big 12. And like you said, a game against BYU. But yeah, definitely going to need to see more just because, Jeff Sims, that's come on. So we'll see how they rebound. Big 12's getting fun, though. I think this is going to be about the point of the year, like mid-season coming in, mid-October, late October, where things are going to break open. We'll see if anybody could catch up to Texas Tech, but should get pretty crazy. If you're Arizona State, I don't know where you go from here. You really got to run the table if you're them to stay, alive in the Big 12. But crazier things have happened, so we'll see.
Yeah, and just one final note, talk about like line movement and stuff. I grabbed this under on Sunday. It was 51.5, closed 43.5 with all the injuries, and I just missed it by half a point at 52. So sometimes you have great CLV, and it just didn't even matter at 8 points, which is crazy for football, and just missed it by half a point. So that was just the way the nightcap was going.
All right, Paisley, winners, losers of the week. We can kick it off. We'll go losers. I'll let you get this thing rolling here, Paisley. Who's your loser of week 7?
Yeah, I had 2, Michigan, but I kind of ranted about them, so I'm not going to go into detail about them. I'm going to go with the refs. This is more from a Notre Dame perspective, too, being at the stadium last week, watching the game again, terrible refs. And I know it sounds like, oh, your favorite team's losing, you're blaming the refs. But I was seeing it in the Auburn game. It was disgusting. I was seeing it in a bunch of other games where these refs are just trying to make a show of themselves. They're calling ticky-tack calls. Like, it's just they're trying to be like the NFL, and that's why I just can't stand the NFL nowadays. It's every play there's a flag. Again, like whatever they're calling on the field, they go to review it. They were reviewing these things for like 10, 12 minutes. That touchdown they were reviewing at Auburn, they were reviewing it for like 15 minutes of real time. And they decided, there's not enough evidence. You can't. Why are you looking at it for that long then? Just let it go. Right. If you can't see it in 2 minutes, go back on the field, be like, it's upheld. Why are you looking at it for that long and then coming back and being like, yeah, it's upheld? Like, this is making no sense. And it's in some critical games, and it's going to screw some teams. It's not everything because Auburn definitely played themselves out of that game too. It wasn't all the refs, but that definitely didn't help them. But yeah, Case, just a little bit about the refs. They're my losers of the week. Stop trying to take over these games. Just let the guys play. And if it's an egregious foul, call it. If not, stop trying to be the center of attention.
Yeah, totally agree. Anytime we can shit on the refs, I'm going to take it. So I love that loser of the week. Little outside the box there. Yeah, I've seen some controversials even from some of the Penn State games. Thankfully, it doesn't matter and Franklin's gone. But that fumble against Oregon that was questionable, and so they've been all over the place this year. Also, quick break off of the refs here. I hate the new upheld thing. There was nothing wrong with stands and confirmed. It was very clear cut. If you have the evidence, if it's confirmed, if you don't, it stands. Why are we changing it? I don't know why we had to change it. I don't like it. Go back to stands and confirm. So that's my rant on the refs. My loser of the week is the Wisconsin Badgers football program. Luke Fickle. If there's any program more in disarray than Penn State right now, Wisconsin would be in the discussion. They got absolutely blown out, doors blown off, explosion, smoke, fire, 37-0 against an Iowa team that I don't think is that great. Wisconsin's now 0-3 in the Big Ten. I don't know where they go from here. Like you said, and we were talking about how important it is to bring a coach in, a guy, like Luke Fickle. What are they going to do? Because they are a mess. They can't even get back to their 7, 8 wins. Like they can't. They are such a mess right now. You got to start somewhere. Going to have to rebuild. But 37-0 against Iowa. I mean, come on. That's bad. That's really bad, Paisley. Loser of the week, Wisconsin Badgers.
Yeah, that's why we discuss. It's very important who you hire because it could really set you back now. Wisconsin was looking to bounce back. Now it's 3 or 4 years of Fickle. Now it might be another 3 or 4 years. They're talking 6, 7 years, 8 years total. They're
James
still waiting to bounce back. Yeah, like it's tough. So I really feel for the Wisconsin fans there. Shout out Big Cat, really going through it. That was another fun one. I talk about one that I lost on a bad CLV. Had under 37.5. I thought there was no chance in that game it was going to close. It actually closed 36.5. So if you had 36.5, that's tough, but won that one by half a point. So shout out Wisconsin for sucking that bad, and scoring 0 points did help me out there with one bet late at night. For my winner of the week, keep this one short because we talked about it, but I'm going to go Arch and Steve Sarkisian. I was bagging on them the last couple of weeks. They did not look right at a big program like Texas, but that was a really clean performance. That's exactly what I was expecting to see. Nice bounce back performance as a whole, but they were under a lot of pressure, obviously, in the expectations. So sometimes you lose a couple, get them out of the way, get the expectations down. They just looked a little freer, played a lot freer, and you could just tell in their face at the end of the game. Really meant a lot to them. So huge shout out. I like to give, if I'm going to shit on you for the early part, I got to give back and give you some respect when you bounce back like that. So huge shout for Texas in general.
Good analyst there for Texas. Yeah, good win. They also got the rivalry win that's always carries a little more weight. Arch Manning looked respectable. So yeah, big shout out Texas. Mine, Kurt Cignetti, Indiana Hoosiers, big winners of the week. I was very anti-Indiana. I did not buy in. I really, even all throughout last year, even through this year, they were one of my disappointing teams in the Big Ten, which I think we know who the real answer is there. But Indiana, big winners over Oregon on the road, breakthrough win for Kurt Cignetti. I think now they'll be taken more serious. They're still going to get pushback, to be honest. I don't think people already, including myself, now talking about, well, how really good is Oregon? But continue proving the haters wrong. Big win for them. Like we talked about, they could run the table and have a huge game with Ohio State in the Big Ten championship. So winner of the week, Indiana Hoosiers, Kurt Cignetti. We'll see how long this story lasts for them. Hopefully a long time, but enjoy the moment. That's all. If I had any advice to give to Indiana Hoosier football fan, enjoy this time.
For sure. Yeah, and a little bonus winner. They were very close to make my list was USF. We were against them in the North Texas game, but they are a legit case. I think they're going to represent the group of 5. Bryce Brown's playing awesome at quarterback. They got a great coach that was also on the long list for Penn State. He's a great coach. So USF, I think they could be a real contender, maybe upset somebody in the college football playoff if they get there.
All right, folks, we will be back on Wednesday night breaking down all of week 8, all the different games, all of our picks, all of our bets. So make sure you tune in for that here on Spotify, YouTube, or X. And then, as always, we'll post our full slate on Friday with all of our bets for the week. And yeah, hopefully we could finally get above 50%. Yeah, we'll see everybody on Wednesday.